Hello, socially distanced friends and fellow dwellers of Earth. I'm doing another lick of the day for you. This is Will Kimbrough in Nashville, and the request I'm doing them when I get these lick of the day requests. This is from my friend Sean Sullivan, who's a dear friend and a great engineer, and we've recorded a bunch of records there at the butcher shop that he runs the place along with Dave Ferguson. But he's recorded the Shamika Copeland records I've worked on, and the Red Dirt Boys record, and a couple of 2-tracks records I've worked on, one of which we're finishing up right now, mixed by Trina Shoemaker, which is awesome. And but Sean asked me to do a lick of the day based on the sort of cult of Keith Richards, and perhaps the master of rhythm guitar should be doing this, Dan Baird, the master of rock and roll rhythm guitar, undisputed. Thank you, Dan Baird. Go listen to the Georgia Satellites and Dan's solo stuff and all the band stuff. Homemade Sin, the Bluefields. He's the man. But the man that kind of really made it all come together at first was Keith Richards, and with a little help from learning the G tuning from the great Ry Cooder, who's a hero to us all, of course, and then the disciples, starting with Johnny Thunders. I guess Brad Whitford and Joe Perry of Aerosmith, and then punk bands like The Only Ones, and many others, myself included. Not that I'm a punk band, but I'm a disciple of Keith, all things Keith. So I'm going to start with this is two guitars, a Telecaster, and Keith's would have a humbucker right here, but macabre, mine doesn't. This is a Charles Whitfield T-style guitar, and it's amazing. It's light. I got home from Australia. This thing was in tune, right? This is a 1960 Gibson Melody Maker with a Jason Lawler P90 and a Glazer Tom Bukovac bridge, and this really brings it all together for it. This guitar is about half as thick as a real Les Paul Jr., so it's never going to have that thick sound, but it's got the 1959, 1960 big neck on it. And the more you play guitar or any instrument, the more you realize that all the factors of an instrument determine everything about it. The tone, the playability, its ability to stay in tune or change tunings without a bunch of pain in the neck. And also another disciple of this kind of guitar is Paul Westerberg, who tunes his guitars all kind of different ways and plays wonderful rhythm and lead guitar. And in this, also, it's in the service, this kind of guitar playing is in the service of songs and styles and grooves rather than just playing. So, this isn't metal shredding for the sake of like, wah! This is, in the service of the song. So you know me, that's what I dig. So this is a Tele with the bridge pickup on and open G. So that's D, G, D, G, B, D. So Keith would take the low D off, but I guess I'm a little bit more of a, precise strummer perhaps than Keith, probably to my detriment. He's the one with millions of fans, millions of dollars, and a giant home in Jamaica. Congratulations, Keith, you are the man. But I'm a disciple, and I like the low D because I like to play the D chord, and I'm going to hit my tuner as well while I'm talking to you, because we like to be in tune. Ironically, just as I bragged on this guitar's tuning, but it's true, I just tuned it to open G, so it moved around a little bit in this humid weather. Hope y'all are surviving, and I know it's a dumb thing to say right now. I hope your psyche and your souls are surviving this time, and I'm sure they are. You're good people. And this is open G. Yeah, open G. And the classic again. Copyright infringement, honky tonk women. So, this is open G. Comes from the blues tradition of playing bottleneck on an open tuning, So, you know, a little bit of overdrive. And then the Keith way, turn your guitar down a bit, have the amp cranked pretty good. And there's this sus chord that's very important to it. So it's the barred across the fret. And then you make the sort of A minor 7 shape on it. But you can make this, move your finger up to the G string here, and it makes this other. So there's a lot of keys. You hear the subtle difference between. And that's more Westerberg kind of. Added that 9 in there. I'm not trying to be too musical theory, but it helps you to know some of this stuff. You know, so this is the open G. And Keith Richards famously says 5 strings, 3 notes, 2 fingers, 1 asshole. And it's all you need to do to play Keith style. Now I'm going to get my P90 Gibson here and show you a little bit more sort of the disciples and in standard tuning. So I'm going to check my tuning on this beautiful old Gibson. This is a great guitar. This is another one that I played the 30A festival with Emmylou Harris a few years ago when it was under 30 degrees outside, and this guitar, I kept checking the tuning because it sounded out of tune, and it was that everybody else was out of tune and my guitar was in tune. So it's crazy, but this has that great, But, okay, so I played a Les Paul Special for years with Todd Snyder and Rodney Crowell, that yellow Les Paul Special, which I sold to my friend Philip, who gave it to his son, and because I just wasn't playing it anymore. And then I found this, and I was like, well, I guess I'm back in the P90 business, and that's the pickup, a P90. It's a Gibson invention of the 40s. So you can hear this guitar. It's not as thick as a humbucker-equipped guitar like a Les Paul Standard or the ES335. It's not as smooth sounding. It's a little rougher. But it still has that Gibson power, mid-range punch. So anyway, this would be like, okay, Johnny Thunders, right? And one of the things about when people talk about Johnny Thunders, sometimes they forget about Sylvain, who was the other guitar player in the Dolls and more of a songwriter than Johnny. Johnny wrote some cool songs. Sylvain and David Johansen wrote the best songs for the New York Dolls. So when we're talking about this kind of guitar playing, we have to talk about Sylvain as well. Chuck Berry is really the key, the blues, Jimmy Reed and Chuck Berry. So Jimmy Reed. And then Chuck Berry, And then you add a little dirt to it and maybe roll the tone back here a little bit, and you get the Johnny Thunders and Sylvain, the New York Dolls. And you see me getting excited over here. I'm like suddenly making rock moves. But that's a Johnny Thunders thing. When I met Johnny Thunders in New York in 1989, he asked me, what kind of guitar do you play? And I said, I play a Strat through a Super Reverb. He goes, I play a Junior through a Twin with all the knobs on 10 like Johnny Winner. Let me translate that for you. I play a Les Paul Junior, a Gibson Les Paul Junior, similar to this, through a Fender Twin, which is a big amp, with all the knobs on 10 like Johnny Winter. So like all these rock and rollers from the old days, all they wanted to do was be a great blues player and, get chicks. So anyway, this is my little primer on this kind of music. You need to learn how to play an open G, but also learn some of this Chuck Berry licks and then turn your amp up. And don't play too many fancy licks. I certainly do that sometimes when I'm playing this kind of music. You don't want to play too fast. Then you get into the later Stones territory of like Mick Taylor, which is beautiful. I mean, you know, Mick Taylor. Arguably, that pentatonic Mick Taylor stuff is one of the biggest influences on modern rock and roll, starting with Ace Frehley. All his licks on Kiss Alive are from Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. Tommy Womack could tell you that. And so, you know, I'm just playing this music for you because I had a request for it. I think you don't play too many lead notes and you keep your rhythm rhythmic, you know, so there's like this... Now, you know, one of my biggest guys is Ronnie Wood, and so, you know, Ronnie... That's a lot of his, you know, the Faces stuff. And I'm just turning my tone knob down a bit, and I'm playing through a little Tweed Fender Champ, so it gets that just kind of rumbling sound. It isn't some idealized clean guitar sound or like a big amp sound. It's just like a little amp working hard and somebody's chugging away. It helps me to have a big long pinky because I can do all that. You know, and then Johnny Thunders. And, you know, Skinner, everybody, you know. All that stuff is coming from Chuck Berry through Keith, through Keith. And then you get to the 70s and you got, you know, Johnny Thunders and New York rock and rollers, Aerosmith from Boston, and then punk rock. And then you've got the Faces coming out of the Stones tradition, coming out of Chuck Berry. So have fun, play your guitar, and thanks for watching my lick of the day. Thank you, Paul Westerberg, for all the music. Thank you, Keith Richards. Thank you, Chuck Berry, Jimmy Reed. I hope you guys are safe. I'll be here making music in my home studio, and we're cooking a lot of good food around here and taking walks. Rock while you can rock, roll while you can roll. That's what Steve Forbert said. All right, bye.